welcome to today's iStore Meets Education session. We are so glad that you could join us today for our Lights Camera coding session. So the iStore Meets is a series of workshops and events which is brought to you by the iStore, and this session is in partnership with Think Ahead. We have a lineup of workshops hosted by our best product trainers and industry experts to help you learn more about the products you love to connect with, create with, and also be more productive with. The iStore Meets program covers a variety of topics to help you now and in the future, such as productivity, education, creativity, and much more. Hosted online now and in stores in the future, please feel free to visit our website. That's iStore Meets myiStore.co.za/meets to book some of our other sessions or to just have a look at what other sessions we're running. These sessions are not only for you as students, but there are sessions for your parents, there's sessions for teachers. So really just go ask your parents to have a look at that site. I'll put up that web address at the end of this presentation. But on to some exciting things. So we are having a monthly competition where you could win a 5,000 Rand iStore gift card. To enter this competition, all you've got to do is you have to just ask mom or dad to help you with this and take a picture of your home setup while you're watching one of these presentations or these sessions. You could even take or post up some tips that you've learned from the session. I'm going to tell you at the end of the session what you can do for this particular session and share this onto either Instagram or onto Facebook using the hashtag iStoreMeet. So that's the hashtag that you're seeing on your screen at the moment. Please, just one thing to remind mom or dad when they're doing this is that it has to be a post and it cannot be an Instagram or Facebook story. These unfortunately will not be entered. Okay, so today's session, we're going to be using Zoom, which is a platform that you're currently on, and then we're going to head over to Swift Playgrounds every now and then to do a little bit of our coding. But during the session, I'd love for you to interact with me. On the line, I have my co-pilot, Steve, with me. And we're both here to help you throughout the session. So if you've got any questions, if you don't understand something or something's not very clear, just pop it in that Q&A tab. If you're using an iPad, it should be at the top of your screen somewhere to the right-hand side. Using a computer, sometimes it might be at the bottom of your screen. So if you can just try and locate that Q&A question for me very quickly, or the Q&A tab. And then in the tab, if you can please just pop in your mom or dad's name, the person who's booked the session for you. If you're not sure who's booked it for you, just pop both their names and surnames, please, so that we can mark you off on our register. And this is just so that we can get a little bit of feedback from you and see if you've enjoyed the session or if there's anything we can do to improve on it. So if you can do that for me quickly, very quickly at this time, just pop open that Q&A tab and type in your mom or dad's first name and surname, please. Okay, I'm going to give you a moment to do that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I see it's coming through. And then we're going to be ready to get started with our lights, camera, coding playground today. Thank you, Vishek. I see it's come through. If I could ask Kaylee and AJ, if you can please just pop in your parents' name and surname so that we can mark it off on the register, please. Okay. So today we're going to be working on an app called Swift Playgrounds. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to go through some terminology with you, things that we might encounter in this playground. If I can ask you, before I get started with that terminology, if you can please just check on your iPad if you have Swift Playgrounds downloaded. If you're using your iPad for Zoom as well as Swift Playgrounds, then just close up Zoom. Don't close it completely. Just go out of Zoom. Check that you've got Swift Playgrounds. And inside Swift Playgrounds, you should have, that's me. I'll get to that. You'll see that one at the end. You should have the playground called Lights Camera Code. On my screen, it's the first playground that you've seen. Check for me that you've got both of those up and running. If you don't, please start downloading it. Then once I'm done with talking you through the terminology, it should have been downloaded, and then we can get started with our coding. Okay, so like I mentioned, we're going to be using two platforms, the first being Zoom and the second being Swift Playground. If you're using one device, I will tell you from time to time, please just head into Zoom, or if you or if we're working on Swift Playgrounds, I'll ask you to please go into Swift Playgrounds. And then we'll hop between the two. When you're in Swift Playgrounds, you still will be able to hear me. So that's really, really important that you can still hear me. So I'll give you the instructions verbally, and you'll be able to just follow along from my voice. Please remember, if there's any questions, just pop back into Zoom and pop it into the Q&A, and either myself or Steve will help you with that. Okay, so essentially in this Lights Camera Code Playground, we're going to be looking at creating a camera app. Now, this is a little bit of a different app because it's not going to be an app that you see an icon on your screen or on your device. It's basically going to be it's going to be in Swift Playgrounds. So you're going to go and open up Swift Playgrounds, not right now, but we will get into Swift Playgrounds. And then in the Lights Camera Code Playground, we're going to create a camera app. And when we create that camera app, we are also going to link it to our photo album on our iPad. And what that's going to do is it's going to help us to save these photographs so that we can share it with our friends and family from within our Photos app on our iPad. And some of the words we're going to come across, there's a lot more, but these are some that might be new, or that might be something that you might not have heard before. And the first one is a component. Now, when we look at a component, we are looking at the objects or the parts that we have seen in a dedicated space. So it's the objects or the parts that we are going to allocate a space to. And this is things like our camera, or we're going to create something, which is the next one, an image view. And that's just going to let us see the last picture that we've taken. It's a really nice way for us to actually just have a bit of a guarantee that a photograph was taken. And the last component that we're going to create is an album view. And this is going to be an element that shows us a few of the photos we've taken, as well as links it to that photo album on our iPad. Okay, so let's head into Swift Playgrounds for me. I just want to show you a few things, and then we're going to get started with the coding. So in Swift Playgrounds, when I started the session, you would have noticed that I was already in a playground, and then I just closed it. So I've already done some stuff on this Lights Camera Code Playground, and you might have a brother or sister or somebody that's worked on the playground before, or maybe yourself. You might have just been curious and you went and you had a look at the playground, and you might have started typing stuff. What I want us to do at this time is I'd like us to please just clear this playground. So we want to set it from fresh. We want it to be a clean playground so that nobody else's code is written there and it doesn't confuse us. So to do that, or to check if it's a new playground, is underneath that playground where it says Lights Camera Code, if it's got the word new written next to it, then it is a new playground. If it doesn't, if it's like mine and it doesn't, I'm going to show you how to reset that. So we're going to head on to the top right corner of our screen, and we're going to tap on the select button. Once we do that, we're going to tap on the Lights Camera Code Playground itself, and we should be able to see a little blue tick in the bottom right of that playground. I'm then going to head to the top left-hand corner, and on the top left-hand corner, I've got 4 buttons. I'm looking for the button that's got a curling arrow. It's the 3rd button if you're reading it from the left-hand side. And I'm going to tap on that button, and then I'm going to get a pop-up, and I'm going to say reset my document. Now, if you see, your playground should have the word new next to it. And what that does is it just means that it's a new playground, that nobody's worked on it, so everything is as it should be. Okay, I'm going to head in and tap on that Swift Playground icon. And then we're going to go through the introduction together. I'm going to talk to you about the layout of Swift Playgrounds, and then we're going to get started with our coding. Please remember, any questions, pop it in that Q&A box for either myself and Steve, and we'll get to that. Okay. So in the introduction, it says to us that cameras let us capture the most special moments of our lives. And then at the bottom, it's got two arrows. I'm going to click on the right arrow to go to the next page. It says to take photos, you'll connect components such as a camera, an image view, and a photo album. Okay, so those are the three things that we're going to connect in today's session. I'm going to go to the next page. You're going to save your pictures to your Photos app. And next page, and then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to decorate our photos using stickers and labels. Okay, so last page, and I'm going to tap on Start Coding. Right, so what we're seeing here is you should see a screen that's separated into two parts. So you've got a right-hand side part and you've got a left-hand side part. So I'm going to look at the right-hand side part first. On this part, you're going to have a little pop-up and it says context, welcome to Light's camera code. Next to the word context, you've got a little trophy and then you've got a cross sign. That cross sign is actually there to close that little pop-up. And when you close it, it'll disappear. And what you can do to bring it back is in the top right corner again, it has a little page with like dots on it. If you tap on that, it will bring that back up. Now this pop-up, I'm going to call the instruction panel. So when I ask you to please go to the instruction panel, this is actually what we're going to be looking at. Again, in the instruction panel, we've got right at the bottom 6 dots. Those dots refer to each page on the instruction panel. So we're going to go through it page by page by page, and it's going to tell us to do something, and then it's going to tell us how to do it, and it's going to help us with this, and that's how we're going to be building this app. Underneath that instruction panel, we've got a little button that says Run My Code. So Run My Code, essentially, we're going to tap on that when we've written some code, and this is going to be to test and see what it is that it does. Next to that, on the left-hand side, you're going to have a little round button, and that little round button is, I like to call it your speedometer, because that controls the speed. Now, in other playgrounds, what it would do is you would step through your code. So as it's running line at a time, it's going to highlight the line of code, and it's going to show you what it's doing on the code on the preview. For this particular playground, there's a lot of elements that run at the same time, so we're not actually going to make use of that button, but it's a good button to know what it does. I'm now moving to the left-hand side, and on the left-hand side, I have got what I'm going to call my coding panel. So when I ask you to go to the coding panel, or I talk about something on the coding panel, this is the side that I'm talking about. Now we've got a couple of sentences written there already, and I'm going to talk you through what that does in a moment. But at the top, on the top left-hand corner, you've got a cross. That cross closes the whole playground, and it takes you back to the start of the app. Then you've got 2 arrows, and in between those 2 arrows, you've got some words. Those words, if you tap on it, it'll bring up a pop-up, and those show you all the pages in this particular playground. So we've already done the introduction. You'll see I've got a little blue line next to the one that says starting the camera, and that's because that's the page that I'm currently on. If I'm completed it, or if I've done it, then you'll see it'll have a green tick next to that page, next to the name of that page. So these are just the pages that we're going to go through in today's session. Okay, next to that, you've got the plus sign. The plus sign essentially gives you some of the coding words, some of the terminologies that you can use. We're not going to make use of them today because you're going to see the instruction panel is going to help us a little bit, but also really nice to know where you can find some of the coding terminologies. The last button that I want to bring your attention to is those 3 dots next to the plus sign. Now this button brings up your tools. It's tools and settings that you can have on this playground. I want to just show you 2 particular buttons that I think is really, really helpful, and something that very, very good to use. The first one is the record movie. So this is going to be like somewhere towards the middle of the page, or this pop-up. And what that does is if you tap on it, it's going to record as you're going through the playground. So it's going to record everything that you're doing on the playground. And this is really, really helpful for if later on you come back and you just want to know what it is that you did, if you can't remember how you got something to somewhere, that it's really nice to have that video as a bit of a backup. It's also fantastic if you want to share it with other people, like your friends, and you want them to do it. It's a good way that they can practice and see what it is you did, and learn from yourself. The second button, or the last button that I want to show you, is the second last one from the bottom, which says reset page. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning, the coding panel has some code written in it. It's got some sentences and things like that. And we're going to fill in the rest of it. Sometimes we fill in quite a bit of information. And if we don't fill it in correctly, or if we've made a mistake and we've taken out something, or if we deleted something, we're going to get errors in our code. And if we know what it is that we've left out, or what mistake we've made, it's easy to fix it. But sometimes we might not be 100% certain as to what it is that was the error. We might even not remember what was given to us versus what we've had to add in. So it's really, really nice. That reset button page just basically resets the whole page for you. And it gives you a fresh start, a clean start, so that you know you're starting from the right path. Okay. So let's get started with our coding. I hope you're all okay. Have any questions, just pop it in the Q&A, please, and we'll get to you with that. Okay, so in your instruction panel, if I can ask you to swipe once or go to the next page, so swipe to the left, and you're going to see the first thing it talks about is creating the components. And it says to us that components are the building blocks we'll use to create our camera app. The two components we're going to start with is Space and Swifty Camera. Now, Space have already created for us, so it's really, really nice. It's stuff that they've made for us, and we're just going to refer to it. The other component that they've created, part of it, is called Swifty Camera. Now, this is going to be our actual camera. This is going to be the look and the feel of it. And we can edit it a little bit. We can change it up. And right at the end, I'll show you, if you're interested in making your own design for your camera, how you can go ahead and do that. So we're going to start by creating an instance of Swifty Camera named Camera. When we create an instance, we're basically creating a version of this, or we're referring to something already created, so that we can edit it and we can change it and we can also rename it. At this stage, we're going to create this camera. We're going to just rename it Camera. So instead of having to call it Swifty Camera all the time, we're just going to refer to it as Camera in our code. And to do this, we are going to be able to do it in one out of three ways. So if you look at your instruction panel, they've given you some of that code. They've actually given you the code, but now we've got to get it from the instruction panel onto the coding panel. So what we can do is we can write it out, and to do that, I'll tap underneath, or I'll tap where it needs to go. I'll talk to you about what that code comment is in a moment, and I can start typing it out. The only thing with typing it out, and I always remind people to be very cautious about this, is that with code, you have to be very, very, very precise. So if you leave out a bracket, or if you leave out a full stop or something to that effect, you are going to get an error message. And sometimes a little closed bracket can be super annoying to find, especially if you've got lines and lines and lines of code. So just be careful when you're typing it out. When we get to some of the simpler lines of code, I'll tell you, you can type out this. The second thing that we can do is we can drag and drop. So from the instruction panel, we'll click on the code, that block of code, and we'll drag it where we need it. And then the third way that we can do this is copy and paste. So on that instruction panel, the block of code, you've got two little pages on the right-hand side of it. If I tap on that and then I tap in my coding panel and get the pop-up, I can tap on, I'll get select all and paste. I didn't copy it, so that's why you're not seeing paste. But let's talk about that code comment. Now, on your coding panel, you should see some of these sentences that start with 2 forward slashes, and they're either in gray, or if your iPad's in dark mode, they're in green. Now, if they are in gray or green, this means that it is a code comment. Also really, really important to check that they have those 2 forward slashes before the sentence starts. So what a code comment does is it's a little bit of a description. It's just there to tell you what exactly does the code underneath this comment do. So what does the code underneath the comment do? And it's just it's a description. This is very, very useful to yourself. If you come back and you're not really sure what the code does, it's just there as a little one-liner explanation. If you're sharing your code with other people, it's also easy for them to understand what's going on. So it's a little bit of proper structure when it comes to writing some code. Okay, so let's actually take very good question, Vishek. No, the code comments are not executed. They are just there as a description, and that's why they start with those 2 forward slashes. So that means that it's not going to run that code at all. It's just a description for those that need to understand what the code is saying or what it is it's actually doing. Any code that starts with those 2 forward slashes will not run when you're testing out your code, which is why it's really important that when you place your code, if we're dragging and dropping or copying and pasting, we need to make 100% certain that we are not doing this after the comment. We have to do it underneath, and I'm going to show you. So I'm going to use drag and drop, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and I'm going to place it next to my code comment. So if you see, if I place it next to my code comment, that code that I've actually written is gray. It's grayed out just like the comment. That means that that code is not going to run. So really important. I'm going to show you the second method. So I did the drag and drop. I'm going to use copy. So just tap on those 2 pages. I go underneath the code comment and I can select paste. And now if you see my code is got a little bit of purple and it's got black writing and it's not grayed out anymore. Okay, so what we've done here is let creates an instance, and we've given it a new name called camera, and we're saying let camera equal that Swifty camera that they've already created for us. That's the name given to the component. So instead of calling it Swifty camera anymore, we're just going to refer to it as camera. And in brackets, we can see that the style that we've allocated or that they've allocated to it is plain. I will show you different styles a little bit later on in this page, but for now we're just going to leave it at plain. I'm then going to go on my instruction panel and go to the next page. So once we've added the component, once we've created the component, we've got to add it into a space. So we've got to actually say where on our screen do we want this component to be seen. So I'm going to ask you to head into Zoom for me very quickly, those of you that are in Playgrounds, and just have a look at my screen because I want to talk to you a little bit about the space and how we add a component into the space. Okay, so if I look at I've just closed up my instruction panel, and if you look at that space behind the instruction panel, it's a gray area and it's got a vertical and a horizontal blue line. Now those 2 blue lines put together form what we call a Cartesian plane. And this is something that's a little bit of a maths concept. And basically it refers to a coordinate system that refers to position, that we can decide on position. Now, where those 2 lines meet is what we refer to as our point 0, 0. So it's 2 values. We look at how much to the right and how much to the left we want something, and how high or how low we want something. And those 2 lines have, we call the horizontal line our x-axis, and we call that vertical line our y-axis. If we want a number to, or if we want our component to be more towards the right-hand side, we will increase the X number. And I'll show you how that looks in a moment. If we wanted to move to the left-hand side, we technically will decrease the number, but we'll move into negative numbers. So before 0, we'll have like -1 and -2. And as the negative numbers get bigger, the more to the left it's going to move. And these all refer to that X number. If we wanted to move up and down, it's the same concept, where up we use a Y value. So Y is our vertical line, and we'll go as bigger, bigger, bigger number. And if we wanted to move lower down, we'll use negative Y numbers. So just remember for me the X and the Y axes, and then we'll talk about, and remember which way each controls. So X right and left, Y up and down. And we'll look at that when we go and when we write our code. If you head back into Swift Playgrounds for me, you'll see on the next page, it says, after creating the camera component, you'll need to add it to the space so you can see it in your app. And then they've given us that code. So I'm going to ask you to just drag and drop or copy and paste that code for me under the next code comment, and then I'll talk you through what it is that it does. So you can see that the command to add something into a space is really simple, space.add. But then it's the details inside those brackets that make it, that actually build it up. So the first thing you've got to do is, because the command was just space.add, we've got to say what is it that we want to add? What component do we want to add to the space? And the component that we're going to use is camera, because that's the only component that we have created. So we're going to add in the camera, and then it's looking at two factors. So we look at point, which is the position, where do we want it, and size, how big do we want it. If you look at point, they said X at 0, Y at 0. So that means they're going to take this camera component, and the middle of the camera component is going to be in the middle of our page, right there where those two lines met at 0.00. Like I said to you, on the next page, I'm going to let you change up those values. So please leave them at 0.0 for now. I want you to see what it is it does, and then we can change it up on the next page when we go to adding an image view. Again, the same with size. So size, we've left the width at 500, the height at 500. Leave it as it is. Let's see what the size looks like, and then we can come back and we can adjust it if we'd like to. Okay, at this point, I'm going to ask you to click on Run Your Code and see what it is that it does. Okay, you're going to get a pop-up when you click Run My Code. It asks you to, Lights Camera Code would like to access your camera. Please click OK. And then we're going to get our little blue box, and it should have a little gray box inside it. You've got two buttons. You've got a solid circle button. That's going to be used to take a photograph. And then you're going to get two arrows that form a circle, and that's to switch between the front-facing and the back-facing camera. I'm going to give you like a few seconds. You can very quickly type for me in the Q&A. What is the problem? What is not happening that should be happening? Well, what do you see that's not there? So something's missing. Who can very quickly in the Q&A just pop for me, what do you think is missing? There's something missing. Something's not working as it should be. There we go. Well done, Vishek. You need to start up your camera. Your camera is not working. Well done, well done, well done. So you can see that the camera is actually not there. We've got the frame, but it's not taking any pictures for us. So I'm going to head on to the next page. And here it says to us, you might have noticed that the camera component doesn't do anything yet. That's because the camera is waiting for you to start it. So we've got one more code comment that says start the camera. Because this is a simple line of code, I'm going to let you, if you'd like to give it a try and type out this code, you can give it a try and type it out. To type it out, they give you a little bit of suggestions at the bottom of your screen, so you can type and you can like tap on the word camera, wait for the next suggestion, tap on the dot, and then tap on the word start. or you can just pop up your keyboard. So that's the little upside down arrow, the upwards facing arrow, and you can start typing it out. You're welcome to still use drag and drop or copy and paste for this. Okay, and now if you run your code, you should see that your camera is working. So you're seeing my ceiling at the moment. And if you tap on that button that takes a picture, you should see a flash. And if you've got your sound up on your iPad, you should hear a little like a camera clicking noise. Okay, so have a look for that. Let me know in the Q&A if it's worked or if it hasn't worked. And let me know, what do you think is our next issue that we're having? So it should have worked. We should see the flash and we should hear the sound. But what's another little problem that we're seeing happening? Just pop that in the Q&A for me. Okay, while you're doing that, I'm going to head on to the next page in my instruction panel. And here we can experiment. We don't see the photo we took. Well done, Nina. Yes, that's exactly it. We don't see the photograph that we took. So we heard it and we saw the flash, but we're not 100% certain if that photo was taken. And that's what the image view is going to do for us in the next page. Before we leave this page, though, like I mentioned right at the beginning, we had a plain style, which is a plain blue camera. But what we can do is we can change that style to something a little bit different. And to do that, I'm going to go to that comment that says create the component. In the brackets where it says style.plane, I'm going to tap on the word plane. And then I should get a couple of suggestions at the bottom. There's just 5 different ones. Have a play around with them. I'm going to give you 1 minute to do that. Just play around with them. And then go to and every time you change it, you've got to click on run my code to see what it is that it does. So if you change it, click run my code, have a look at what it does, and then move to that last page on our instruction panels. I'm going to give you 1 minute to just pick a style that you like. Please remember, don't spend too much of time on this because we're going to do it again on the next page when we're creating that image view, and then you'll be able to pick it. So I just want you to have a look at the different types of styles that there is, so that in the next page you can very quickly decide which one that it is that you'd like. Okay, so 1 minute, I'm counting you down. Just have a look at which style you'd like. Don't forget, click on run my code. And let's see, and then head on to that last page in the instruction panel, which is our check. Okay, so on the last page in the instruction panel, it's a little bit of a check. It's just there to see that we understand what it is that we've done. And then it also gives us that little green tick to tell us that we're done with this page. So it asks us, what is a component? And if I go down to the second option, it says a component is a building block such as a space or a camera used in building an app. So I'm going to select the first one, the second one, click on confirm. And just under the word confirm, we can head on to the next page. Okay. So on the next page, we want to now create that image view so that we can see the photograph that we took. Otherwise, we're just assuming that we've taken it and that it's done what it should be. So it says here how to see your photos. On the previous page, you could see the live video from your camera and press the shutter button to take a picture. But how do you see the photo you've just taken? Okay, next page on the instruction panel, please. So it says you can use an image view component, and an image view component allows you to view an image such as a photo. If you connect the image view to the camera, you can see the photo taken by the camera. Okay, so here we're going to have to go ahead again and create that camera component. We're going to add it to the space. We're going to start the camera. So we're going to do those 3 things again. And then we're also going to do the image view component. So we're going to create the image view component, we're going to add it to the space, and we're going to connect it. So those are the 3 things that we're going to look at. Because this is the second time we're doing this with camera components, they've kind of hidden that code a little bit to see if you remember it and if you can type it out yourself. Because we only have an hour today, or we only had an hour, we've got like half an hour left, I'm going to use the little bit of help, the need help hints, just so that I have that code already and I don't have to type it up. But please feel free to come back after this webinar and redo the page and see if you remember the code so that you don't have to use those little need help buttons. Okay, so it says start by creating an instance of Swifty camera named camera, and just underneath that it said need help. And if I tap on that, then it's going to give me the code from the previous page. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to drag and drop it, and I'm going to place it under the code comment that says create the components. At this stage, you can go ahead already and tap on the word plane and change it to which type of camera or which type of style you'd like it to be. So I'm going to change it to the cloud. Vishik, we are using Swift code. So that's the coding language that we're using. It's Swift syntax. Okay. I'm then going to go a little bit further down on my instruction panel, and you can see I now need to create that image view component. So I've created the camera component. Still underneath the create the components code comment, I'm going to drag and drop the second component. So it goes all one underneath the other, never next to each other, please. Okay. When you created the image view component, I want you to just have a look at that component that you've created. And it says let image view equal image view. And in the brackets, they don't have anything. There's no style or there's nothing allocated to it. We've just created that component. Keep that in the back of your head because I'm going to talk to you about that in about 2 pages time. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next page on my instruction panel. And now I've got to add these components into a space. So again, excuse me, I'm going to add the Swifty camera to the space, and I'm going to name it, I'm going to use the name camera. They've given me the coordinates. I'm going to click on the need help, and I'm just going to drag and drop that code for now. Okay. Take note at this point that the Y value of the camera has changed, and they've now made it a -100. That means that instead of it being in the middle of my page, they've brought it down just a little bit. So they've brought it down, and that was done so that it can create space for the image view. I'm again going to go to the bottom of the page on the instruction panel, and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to drag and drop the code to add the image view into the space. Now, there we go. If you look at those 2 components, it's quite a bit of code, and you need to know which one you're working with so that you don't change the number for the camera when you're supposed to change it for the image view. And to tell these apart, if you look at just after the word add, so it's got space.add, and the first word inside the bracket is which component are you referring to. So either it will say camera or it will say image view, and that's how you know which components you're actually referring to. Now I want you to click run my code for me at this time. And if you see, you're going to have your camera component right down to the bottom, as far down to the bottom as you can. And there's a space at the top of your page. Once you see that, you can click on stop to get us back to our coding panel. And let's head on to the next page. And it says you use properties to change the appearance and behavior of components. So like I said to you, have a notice right at the beginning when we created the component, we didn't give it any style. So because we're allocating more than one property to the style, we're not going to do that in that create the component. We're going to create another code comment which says set the properties of the image view. And here it is where I am going to actually set each and individual property. Now, for now, we've got 4 different properties that we're going to use. You cannot change the shape. The shape of the image view has already been decided, and it's a square. So on this page, it's a square. All we can do is we can control the border color and width. We can put a placeholder photo inside, which means that it's just a photograph that'll be there until we take a photograph. We can make the corners rounded, or we can rotate that block a little bit. Now you can use all 4 of these properties, or you can just pick one or two of the properties that you'd like to use when you're styling your image view. I'm just going to use two. So I'm going to use a border color and width. And if I drag and drop that code, what I can do is I can change these numbers. So the width that says 15, I can make it smaller to make it a bit thinner, or I can make it change to a little bit bigger to make it a bit thicker. I can then also go and tap on that little blue block, and I'll get a pop-up of colors. For now, these are the colors that you can use, and I can select a different color, and that's going to be the border color that it comes up with. I'm also then going to use a placeholder photograph. And why I want to show you this one is because this is also a way of, how I'm going to show you now is also a way that you can use a little bit later for your stickers. So if I tap on that little photograph next to the word, next to the equal to sign, there we go. It's going to give me a pop-up, and these are all the different placeholder photographs I can use. Later on, it's all the stickers and things you can use. What you can also do is you can go insert from or photo library, and you can insert photographs or stickers and labels and things like that that you have on your iPad already saved. So for now, I'm just going to pick one. I'm going to pick the donuts as my placeholder photograph because it's just there until I take a photograph. And then I'm going to tap on use. So if I click run my code at this time, I'm going to see here's my camera. Above my camera here is that image view. This is where I'm going to be, where I'll end up seeing my photograph. At this time, I want to also bring you back to that space, adding the components to a space. So here you can go and change, because you've seen the size of the image view and the size of the camera, you can go and change it. So maybe you don't want the image view so big. I'm going to change mine and I'm going to make it 200 and 200. So that's going to determine how wide and how high it's going to be. You can adjust this a little bit, and if you make the width a bit more than the height, you're going to end up with a more rectangular shape than if you just kept them the same. And if I go run my code again, you can see my image view just went a little bit smaller, but it's essentially in the same place. If you move those, if you want to move it and maybe have your camera up top and have your image view at the bottom, you can change that by changing those X and those Y values. Just remember to have a look on which component you are changing these values on. Okay, again, I need to start that camera. So really, really important. On the next page of your instruction panel, it's a bit of a check again. So it says which line of code adds an image view to the space. If I go right down to the bottom, it's the one that says space.add. So I'm just going to tap on that, tap on confirm, and then head to the next page. Okay, so here it goes. It tells me start my camera, and I'm going to get that code in there so that I can run my camera. Let's run the code and see what happens. Run the code, take a picture, and then pop it in the Q&A, what happened or what didn't happen. Okay, so just run your code. You can use the front-facing camera or the back-facing camera. Take a picture, tell me what happened or what didn't happen. Yay, Nina, it didn't go, you didn't get your photograph. And Rishik, well done. It didn't go to the image view, you didn't get your photograph. And that takes us to the very last page. Remember, with coding, it's really, really important that whatever you want to do, you've got to tell the app or the computer or the iPad to do it. Unfortunately, it doesn't do it by itself. It would be really fun if it didn't, but then we wouldn't be learning how to code. So we've got to make that connection. We've got to say to this program that when that photograph is taken, you need to take that last photo that was taken and send it to the image view so that it shows you on that image view. And again, it's a simple line of code. We're referring to the component. So which component? And that's the camera component. We're then looking more specifically at the photo taken with this camera component, and we're connecting it to the image view input. So it's giving it to the image view, and then it's going to display it for us. So let's get that code underneath that last code comment. Run your code one more time, and take a picture for me. And you can see if you take a picture, the last picture that you've taken. So take a few pictures. I'll take one there, and then there should be one off the side of my wall. The last pictures that you've taken is going to be the one that you see on that image view. Vishek, at this time, it's only going to be photographs in this particular playground, but you can definitely look into creating videos in the Create. I'll show you right at the end which playground you can go and have a look at using and connecting your video camera. Okay, but for now, it's just going to be photographs. Okay, so I hope you've got it working. I hope that it's all going well. I've got the last 15 minutes left. So what I want to do is I want to talk to you about the last 2 pages that you're going to go to, and then what you can do after you've done this playground, just so that if we do run out of time, you at least know what it is you have to do. And then I'll have a little bit of time for Q&A if you have any questions for me. Okay, so far we've created 2 components, but it's not just created 2 components. We've created them, we've added them to a space, we've styled them, we've connected components, and these are the skills that you're going to use in the next 2 pages. So if you head into Zoom for me, please, I'm going to talk you through the last 2 pages and then where to go from there. So on the last page in this creating components block, we've got saving our photographs. Now we created a component. So if you can imagine this, you've got to create a component and then you've got to link that component to something else in order to make that connection. So we created a camera, we created an image view, and we connected those 2 components. We're now going to add a third component, which is going to be our album view. Now, what the album view is going to do is it's going to show you like the last 3 photographs that you've taken. And if you tap on that, we're going to connect that album to our photos album. Now, if you think of a normal camera app or the camera app on your phone, what they've done is they've basically, instead of having a placeholder photograph in the image view, they've had the last image as that placeholder photograph. And then they've created that, or they've linked that to your album. So that's a little bit more complicated. For now, we're just going to keep it simple, and we're going to do 3 separate components: our camera, our image view, and our album view. And we're going to link the album view to our Photos app. So what they've done is they've actually created that. So what we did on the previous page, the image view and the camera, they've created it already for us because we've done it twice. They don't need us to do it a 3rd time. But what you can go and do here is you can go and edit. So you can go and change the style of the camera from plain to something else. You can change the position of the camera and the image view. And you can change the style of the image view. So if I click on run my code at this point, it's going to ask me that pop up again. You're going to see I've got 2 rectangular blocks now, and then the 3rd rectangular block is going to go right at the top, and that block is going to be my album view. So I've got my image view, I'm going to have my album view right above that. And what we're going to then do is we're going to connect the album view to the camera, and then a second connection, which is going to take the album view and save it to our photo albums. And as we do that, I just want to get to the last page. Here you go. So as you save it to your Photos app, it's not going to just, so it will save it under all photographs, but it's going to put it neatly into an album. Now on your Photos app, you can create your own albums, and this organizes your photos basically. So you can have an album for family, and all your family pictures go in there, and you can have an album for friends, and all your friends' pictures go in there. And now we're going to create an album, and all these pictures that we took using the Swifty camera is going to go in there. Now, by default, when you copy or drag and drop this code, it says that the album name is going to be my album name. and it's in inverted commas. So anything in inverted commas is actually a name that you're giving to something, something that's going to display it as it is typed out. So you can rename this and you can call it like a Swifty camera album, or you can call it like a playgrounds album or something, whatever name you'd like to give to it. Just remember the name that you give to it, because you're going to use that in the photos board page. So you're going to connect those components together and get them talking to each other. And then you're going to head on to the second last page, which is going to be building your photo album. Now here you can see the first or the second line of code says, let my album equal photo album named. And here, whatever you named it in the previous page, you've got to come and rename it here. So if you've changed it to Swifty camera there, you're going to come back here and you're going to change it to Swifty camera. And what this does is it's going to allow you to open up that photo album and then pick out which photos do you want to put on the photo board. Because sometimes you take like 20 photos and you might only want to put 3 or 4 onto your photo board. So you're going to pick which photos you want. Again, each photo that you pick is going to be a component. So you're going to have to add it into the space and then assign it. Where do you want to see it? And do you want to rotate it? Do you want to turn it? You then can add in frames and stickers. And again, these are components that you're adding in. And each component you'll shift and you'll style it as it is that you need to, so that it looks really awesome on your photo board. You can add in different emojis. You can use some of the stickers they've given to you. You can have stickers on your iPad that you use in your like photos that you've already taken. And these are all the ways that you can use to decorate it. As you go through that instruction panel, it will take you step by step through what it is you want to do. So you'll look at picture 1, picture 2. You'll look at adding in the different stickers, adding in the different picture frames and things like that. Now, if you get something really, really awesome working and you create a beautiful photo board, please share it with us. This could be something that you can enter into our competition and tag the iStore Meets or use the hashtag iStore Meets as part of your post. Don't forget to ask mom and dad for help on this, please. And maybe this is something that you could win your 5,000 Rand gift card for. From here, it doesn't have to end. So what we've done is we've taken little bits of things that we can do and we put it into one playground. We've tried to get a little taste of everything in this one playground. But what you can do after this, so after you've done this playground, if it's something you've enjoyed and you want to do a little bit more on it, you can use the assemble your camera playground. And what this does is it allows you, instead of giving you like a Swifty camera, a style, you can actually go and draw out your own styles of cameras and you can use that as your camera style. So if building those cameras and if the creativity on that side is really something that interests you, then go and have a look at assemble your camera. Flashy photos is an extension and do much more with your photo board. So if you loved decorating your photographs and you want to create like strings of images and pictures and lots of creative things, then please go and have a look at the Flashy Photos playground. And then Camera Create is a blank playground. So that's where you can go and play around and start creating and start learning a little bit more of code. So that's a blank one. Once you're comfortable and you know how these the coding terminologies work and the commands work, you can go and head onto Camera Create and have a look at what they've got going on there. So I've got a few more minutes. I've only got the two of you, Nina and Vishek, on the line. If you've got any questions, please pop them in the Q&A for me. I really hope that you enjoyed the session and that you learned something from it and that you finish up your playgrounds. I love to see your photo boards uploaded to Facebook or to Instagram for us, please. So have a play around with it. Don't forget that there are other sessions running. There's sessions for parents as well, or for teachers if you maybe have mom or dad as a teacher, or there's sessions for everybody. So have a look at that iStore Meets website. It's myiStore.co.za/meets. And have a look and see if you'd like to book for one of the other sessions. I'm going to stay on the line for a little bit longer. If you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A for me. You can raise your hand at this point and I'll unmute you so you can ask me your questions if you have anything. I'm going to have a little bit of soft music playing in the background, but thank you very much for joining our sessions. I really, really hope that you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you again soon in one of our other sessions. Thanks, everybody.